I wasn't sure if it was all the time spending sanding floors in a 140-year-old home in Dublin City that we just bought, or having to rock our new son to sleep every single night for hours. But both of my knees were killing me, a new type of pain for me, and I've just got that pain now, 3 years later. I'm not sure if it's because I'm playing rugby again and I'm way too old to be doing that, or because I'm building chicken coops and building raised vegetable gardens. A few years ago, we bought a house in Portobello in Dublin, right in the city centre. It was a 140-year-old red brick. We gutted it, we got planning permission to extend it, a complete refurbishment. It took years of saving, years of planning, even nights after I got our son to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, going back into that house and sanding and painting and stripping paint, sometimes up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Even with all that effort, we moved in a year later than planned. And when I look back now and what it took to get the house to where it is now, the cost, the planning, dealing with legal headaches, managing contractors, a year of delay, I asked myself, honestly, could I do it all again today? The honest answer is probably yes. I'm a little bit more resilient now. However, I'm not sure the market would allow me. When we started the renovations, the SCSI were completing a study on the feasibility of home renovations in Ireland. They asked if I'd be involved and share all our costs and plans. From memory, I think they tracked about 26 projects over a year or so. They found that only 6 of those 26 stacked up financially, meaning most people spent more money on the renovations and the original purchase of the house than the house was worth at the end of all those works. This was back in about 2023. They had 6 projects that did stack up financially. All of those were owned by property professionals. Ours was one of those 6. We were lucky. And I'm someone who works in the industry and I'm meant to know how the market moves. But we bought at the right time, we got a great deal, and it was in the right place where prices were rising. But with house prices as they are now and construction costs rising, would it stack up now? My feasibility training from 20 years probably wouldn't allow me to start that project all over again. So the market wouldn't allow me. So what does that mean for someone who's starting out now? Is it possible? I've been helping a real estate professional build out a product to help buyers in the US. At an early stage, I sat down and asked them, could they bring this data, this buyer data, to developers that would help them make better decisions and build based on real demand and budgets? He said, no, there's no point. Construction costs alone are higher than most of these budgets and affordability levels. That was a stark reminder for me that it's not going to be easy to deliver more homes, and it's only going to get worse for many young people. And let's be honest to where we are now, and call it what you want. Call it Own Nothing or Be Happy or Project 2030. It feels like we're kind of already there. Everything is on subscription and there's division between generations and more. Rents are 80% higher than they were a decade ago. We're at the lowest level supply on record in terms of rents. House prices are still rising. They went up about 4%, or they will go about 4% this year. And that's after years of double-digit growth. Wages haven't kept pace either. A deposit for your average home now requires years of disciplined saving, often even a decade. While paying rent, that leaves very little room to save at all. And that's the trap, and that is a real one. I blame over regulations, others will blame parents and start seeding division. But that's where I want to push back, because the conversation usually stops here, and it shouldn't. Recently, the ESRI, the Irish Economics and Social Research Institution, confirmed what a lot of young people were already kind of feeling in their gut, that workers in their 20s now are earning less in real terms than people in their 20s back in the 90s and early 2000s. Homeownership at 30 has dropped from 60% for people who were born in the 60s down to 33% for people who were born in the 80s. I'm part of that group, and it's only going to get worse for each generation. We are now getting headlines like, this is the first generation in Ireland with a lower standard of living than the one before it. I generally don't like these type of headlines, these generational wars and articles that seed kind of resent and division between generations and often families. Yes, older generations need to understand that it is harder to get on the housing ladder right now. Even my generation may have had it easier than current 20-year-olds, but younger generations, the standard of living is not lower. They are actually far superior in many ways. Education, access to information, there's a lot more opportunities to create wealth if you think about it. Our parents had 2 TV channels. Glenroe was the highlight of their entertainment on a Sunday. Fine, things were simpler and maybe better in many ways, but my generation and younger generations have a lot of options too. And if you think the world is on fire now, have a listen to the song from 1989, We Didn't Start the Fire, 37 years ago. Every generation has its own headwinds to deal with. Current headwinds aren't much different than 1989 when that song came out. Add in AI and it becomes relevant. The only difference is that we are overloaded now by too much information, more than any past generation. But that's largely our own choice. We just have to put these bloody things down every once in a while and kind of reset. We have to stop feeding into the division of generations. We should be looking at how we can actually share and build on common issues. And when it comes to housing and the current generation, where most of the conversation goes wrong, it frames the problem as, how do you buy a house? And if you can't answer that, you failed, or it's your parents' fault. But that's the wrong question. The real question is, how do you build security, wealth, and a good life? If the traditional path isn't available to you, our parents often only had one path to build wealth, and that was to buy a house and pay down a mortgage for 30 years. Buying shares or investing was largely only for the very wealthy. But ask yourself, if the path that past generations had is not open now, what options are open? I recently watched a college address from Luke from the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel.
Trying to survive as best we can with the resources we have. So I would like to help give you some advice to survive whatever's coming next.
Luke is likely a year or 2 older than me, but we've seen many of the same things in our career. 9/11, as we started college, the boom, the bust, the recovery, COVID, recovery again, and now AI and prices rising. The one thing that Luke seems to have done better than me over his career, and not just his 20 million YouTube subscribers, but a simple choice. He saved. He always saved in the good and bad times. He didn't know what he was going to face in his career over the last 20 years. He just knew that there would be ups and downs and major changes. And he doesn't know what's going to happen in the next 20 years either, other than those changes are going to be beyond what we're dreaming of at the moment. And if I was 20 or 30 again, working in Dublin, I wouldn't actually be able to buy a house. I would be in the same boat as most people watching this video. But if I had the wisdom over the last 20 years of working, this is what I tell myself if I was acting like a 40-year-old in my 20s. Invest in yourself first. Your earning power is bigger than any asset, bigger than any property you might invest in early on particularly. Skills compound. Focus on the ones that are hard to replicate. Learn by doing, not just in the classroom. And even starting a business and learning from failures actually teach more than a degree would. And these lessons compound themselves over the years. I used to think that passive income was the goal, but you can't build passive income without active income first. At 20, your best return is how to grow your own skills and how to increase your active income. Next up is build a community intentionally. This kind of sounds a bit weird or soft, but it isn't. Childcare, people you can call on, a network that actually backs you up. That has real financial value. One kid with zero support behind you has a massive hit on your earning power. The next 20 years is going to reward people who build a network early and have a support network behind them. Next up is kind of back to Luke's point in regards to his college address. Save and invest the difference. If you are renting and you can't see a path to buying soon, Don't let that gap kind of disappear. Invest in index funds, pensions, anything you can. You have to build that muscle to pay yourself first. I learned that the hard way. Income creep was a big issue for me. And in a lot of ways, it was because I earned money too easy when I came out of college and I didn't build that habit. But you have to build that saving habit, and it needs to be stronger now than ever before because change is happening so often. Now I'd also look at property in a different way. Owning your home is still one of the best wealth building tools you can have. It forces saving, you can leverage it, and it's a roof of your own over your own head. That hasn't changed, but what has changed is access and easy access to it. So if buying isn't realistic right now, what are your other options? How can you get exposure to the property market without buying a home? Look at joint ventures, look at pooling your money with other people you trust to buy something, or else direct lending into someone who is developing or building something and agree a fixed income from that. Or invest in home builders, or buy an apartment in a regional city that's undervalued. These aren't keys to your own door, but it gets you into the game, gets you exposure to an asset class that helps build wealth and has helped build wealth for the last 20 or so years in Ireland. Finally, I would look after yourself. This kind of sounds stupid and unrelated to property, but it isn't. Health, energy, a clear head, they're all the engines that actually build everything else and everything runs on. A sore body slows absolutely everything down. Focus on the small things you can actually control, and they will build up over the next 5 years. They won't show up now, but they will show up eventually. The point of this video is not to ignore home ownership. I think home ownership is really important, but it's to stop letting it be the only measure of whether you're doing well or not. I got into the market at the right time when I did. I know that. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't partially luck alongside a lot of hard work. I would do it again if the market let me, but I don't think the market would let me right now. And if I was locked out of the market, I wouldn't be focused on questions like, was it easier for my parents? This leads nowhere unless we're going to talk about inheritance tax and see if that can balance the books. And perhaps that's what I talk about in the next video. If you found this useful, drop a comment below. Also check out my new newsletter and see you next week.